for being here today. I'm Mick Carlson. If you don't know me, I'm the founder and sculptor of this beautiful 6-acre.
Mr. Carlson.
Hey.
Hi.
But today we're here because a lot of you heard that we have a visitor coming to speak.
Yes.
He's here to help me because he's been a big friend of mine over the years, and he kidnapped my heart. And his name is San Francesco, St. Francis. We've been building this garden for 15 years. It's been built on donations. My organization, the St. Francis Sculpture Garden, worked up an agreement with the sisters 15 years ago, and we've been slowly building this paradise for the whole community. And I'm so glad to see so many of you here, and the nice breeze in the air to keep us cool. And so there's so much I can tell you about it, and maybe another time I tell more of the story and how we got here and how the sculptures got here, and there are stories on our website about that. But today we're here to meet Francesco. So is Francesco anywhere out there? Francesco!
Francesco!
Rita!
Brother sun and sister moon, I seldom see you, seldom hear your tune. Preoccupied with selfish misery, preoccupied with selfish misery. Brother wind and sister air, open mine eyes to visions pure and fair, that I may see the beauty around me. I am God's creature, of Him I am a part. I feel Thy love awakening my heart. Brother sun and sister moon, I now can see you, I can hear your tune. So much in love with all that I survey, so much in love with everyone I meet, so much in love with everything I see. I am God's creature, of Him I am a part. I feel Thy love awakening my heart. Do you feel that love?
Yes.
Do you know that love inside of us, around us? Have you ever given yourself completely over to that love and loved one person, one thing? Have you allowed yourself to be loved? I am God's troubadour of love, and I bring that love to you today. That love for these trees, the love for the wind and the air and the clouds and the sun, and the love of our Lord. It is here. Breathe it in. Feel the blessing of that love. I am God's troubadour of love, Francis of Assisi. You may know about my father. He was a very wealthy merchant. He had the finest cloth in all of Europe. Kings and bishops and cardinals, even princess, loved the fabric. The finest silks from Asia, directly from the Silk Road. He grew the finest linens. The cloth was even woven with actual threads of silver and gold. But my father was a merchant, and he wanted to be nobility. And in his travels, purchasing and buying these fine fabrics, he met the daughter of a nobleman and thought if he married her, it would change his station in life. She was from France, and he brought her back to Assisi, and I was born in the latter part of the 12th century. And my mother, she called me Francesco to remind her of her homeland. When I was a boy, I was given everything. everything a boy could want. Pause and think about that for a moment. Could you imagine? Anything, everything. My friends, they called me Leaky Palms. Because if there was a party, I was always invited. Another flagon of wine? Someone for your pleasure? But my father thought that if I could go off to battle, I could win honor for the family's name, and finally we would be elevated to noble men and women. When I was suited with the finest suit of armor that money could buy, my mother, doting on her boy, she held up a mirror, and when I lifted the metal mask, I gazed and said, "This shall be my death mask." And it nearly was. I was captured by the enemy, and I was held as a prisoner of war for more than a year. Less than bread and water. But did I mention my father was a wealthy man? He paid the ransom and brought me home. I was so sick, I could not stand, let alone walk. And so, as was the custom, my parents hired a good nun to take care of me, to feed and water and bathe, and she would read to me. And as days went by, I began to read to myself. And as my strength returned, I began to wander the streets of Assisi. Now, I bet you can all guess what book I read most frequently. The Bible. But I did not read the Bible chapter and verse the way most. I wanted to know every word and let those words guide me. As the words, the stories, shall guide us now. Let us wander. Will you come? Will you?
How can he do that?
We'll stop for just a few moments at each station and take a seat. There are stones you can sit upon. Please. I insist. As a young man, when I was more able, I would go to the church of San Damiano. Have you been? It is an ancient medieval church that when I discovered it had fallen into ruins. The roof had collapsed, and I would kneel before the cross of San Damiano, and I asked those questions that all of us must answer. But first, you must ask, why are you here? Why are you here in this moment? Why are you here in this world? What are your gifts that you have been given? How can you use those gifts to better the world that you live within? What is your purpose? I have a feeling at least a few of you have begun to answer that question. You have the rest of your days. And some of us are still trying to find our way. But I kneeled there asking, why? Why am I here? The cross spoke to me. As clear as this voice speaks to you, I heard, Francis, rebuild my church. I am a fool. I thought, I can lift a stone. I can lift another stone. With the help of a few friends, I could lift a timber. If you want your dreams to be, take your time, go slowly. Do few things, but do them well. Heartfelt work grows purely. I am a fool. I took it literally. Lift up a stone and place it there. I am doing what God told me to do. The church is not a building. The church is not a pile of stones or timbers or even the cross, the glorious cross of San Damiano. The church is you and me. My friends began to gather. Do few things, but do them well. Heartfelt work grows purely. And we slowly began to rebuild the church of San Damiano. And as more and more brothers gathered, we began to wander. Let us wander. Let us wander. How many of you have spent time wandering this glorious garden? How many of you have never seen these sculptures before?
Presiding chair.
I wish we had weeks to study each of them. The beautiful detail of the sculptor, the hand working with wax, cast in bronze. Each small piece tells a large story. Have you heard of my sermon for the birds? Or my sermon to the birds? Or my sermon from the birds? I shall tell one of those later, but it quickly became known that I love nature. We are nature. Please, take a big, deep breath and empty. And breathe again. What you just breathed in was inside the person beside you a few seconds ago. Take another deep breath. What you just breathed in was inside this glorious shagbark hickory, or this elm, or that maple, or that walnut. Take another deep breath. Here on the west coast of Michigan, the cool front that came in and broke that heat dome. What you just breathed in was in a Canadian balsam fir a couple of days ago. Say thank you, Canadian balsam fir.
Thank you.
Every time I breathe in, I breathe the outside world into myself. In very specific ways, we are nature. These little stones that are prickling my feet, many of them are limestone. These are granite. This is a 300-million-year-old beach. And this, an 800-million-year-old volcano. And yet, the glass of milk you drank this morning contains some of this lime. Your bones are made of these ancient stones. When you know, not just know, when you feel that we are infinitely part of the creation, then there is no separation between you and me and this tree and our Lord and all of the Lord's creation. And so when these stories began to be told about Francis, who loved nature more than many, there was a wolf in the town of Gubbio. And the wolf was a wolf. It did what wolves do. It would steal a lamb now and then when it could. If the shepherd was not watching his flock, a sheep would disappear. But then the wolf grew more brave. And in the middle of the day would come into the flock to seek its supper. And even more brave, many of the cities have a wall and gates. And if the gates were left open, the wolf would come into the town of Gubbio, and more brave, in the daylight. It was even told that some boys had disappeared. Maybe it was just their mother saying, make sure you're home before dark. But the people were afraid. some afraid to leave the village, and some even afraid to leave their homes after dark. But when it was heard that Francis of Assisi was near, I was invited to see what I could do. When I arrived in the Zoccolo, the town square, the villagers came out, and I asked, "Have you seen the wolf? Do you know the wolf?" Several said, yes, I had seen it. I said, "Where does the wolf live?" One young woman, a girl, she said, "I think I know where the wolf lives." I said, "Will you please take me to that?" "No." I said, "But you're the..." "No." "Will you please?" And maybe because I had a little faith in her, are you a brave young woman? I could tell. She found the courage in herself, and she led the way out the town gates towards the mountain. As we approached the mountain, there were 3 small caves. She said, "In that cave there, I saw the wolf carry a lamb." I said, "Which one?" She said, "That one." "Which one?" She said, "That one." I said, "Take me closer." She said, "No." I said, "Please, you're the only one." And again, maybe because I had a little faith in her, she found a little courage, and she led the way, and I followed, and the rest of the village stayed where they were. They could see just fine. But as out came the wolf, barking and howling and growling. I'm sorry, we were scared too. Foaming at the mouth, howling and growling, and I crossed myself, and when I did, the wolf stopped. And I came to my sense, and I scolded the wolf. "How dare you scare me like that?" And wolves live by the laws of nature, dominance and submission. As soon as I stood up to the wolf, it tucked its tail between its legs, laid its ears down, and whinnied. "Ooh, ooh." And I felt terrible. Who am I to scold Brother Wolf? You are doing what wolves are made to do. And then an idea came to me. Some might say divine inspiration. I said to Brother Wolf, "The village, the people of Gubbio, they are willing to make a deal with you." Just like that woman, their jaws dropped. "What kind of deal do you mean?" And I said, "When they slaughter a lamb for their feast, the bones and scraps they cannot eat. If they will offer those scraps, you will no longer be a hungry wolf, and you can guard the village. For there are highwaymen and robbers who roam these parts." And when I placed my hand forward, the wolf placed his paw within my hand as if to shake on it. And the village agreed. And from that day forward, whenever it came time for the slaughter, the scraps and bones, they offered just outside the gate. And the wolf came, and the village of Gubbio was no longer disturbed by that wolf. It was guarded by them. The village of Gubbio was no longer disturbed by robbers and highwaymen. Have you been to Gubbio? You will see a statue of myself and the wolf of Gubbio. Almost as beautiful. Where did he go? Almost as beautiful as this one. Shall we wander? Let us walk round this corner. As the friar miners began to gather and increase in numbers, it was determined that we should seek the Pope's approval, that we should register as an order. And so we went to the Vatican. Have you been? One does not just march into the Pope and say, "May I have your permission to found an order, sir?"
You're most welcome, Your Holiness.
all of Europe came to the Vatican. And they all sought audience with the Pope. And so we waited. I preached in Italian. But as I began to preach, a crowd gathered. And as I spread my hands, birds landed upon my arms. And one bird repeated my sermon in French, another in Spanish, another in Italian and Latin and German. So everyone who gathered heard the prayer in their language. And then finally, the Pope allows us to enter. And the cardinals, in their bright red, line the palace, the Vatican. And the friar minors and I, in our ragged robes, humble to walk amongst them, we are given permission to approach our Holy Say. And as we do, he mops his brow and he looks at me. He takes off some of his vestments and he stands up and he stares at me. And then he comes down off of the throne that some have built for him. And he says, I know you. I have seen you. I wanted to say, yes, you walked by me 3 times in the past 3 days, but I kept my mouth shut. He said, I have been haunted by a dream. Many nights, this dream. I see the church is crumbling. I see the church falling into ruin and decay. And I plead, God, what can I do? And I look, and I see a poor man, a beggar, dressed in rags, who is a pillar, holding up the church. Pope Innocent waves his arms, and his servants bring oil and water, and our Holy Father bathes my feet as Christ did in the marketplace. He anoints them, he blesses them, he kisses them. And all of the brothers, one at a time, he washes our feet. He blesses these feet, impervious to sharp stones, impervious to fire. He blesses us. And he says, Francis, go into the world and rebuild my church. If you want your dreams to be, take your time, go slowly. Do few things, but do them well. Heartfelt work grows purely. Let us wander into the world. When I was working on San Damiano, rebuilding the church, Bernardo, one of my oldest and truest friends, he came. He was curious. He wanted to see what I was doing. Whereas I was captured as a prisoner of war, Bernardo was a hero, returned victorious, or so the village would like you to believe. But anyone who has seen the horrors of war will tell you there are scars on the inside that we do not see. He was injured in a way. He was shattered. He could not return to the life of nobility as was his right. Stone by stone, day by day, you'll know heaven's glory. Stone by stone, day by day. The simple act of lifting a stone and rebuilding the church was healing for him. and he was torn? Does he return to the lap of luxury? Who would love to live in a castle with servants? Or does he? Yes, I've lived there. It is wonderful. Or would you follow a beggar into the streets? I said, Bernardo, let's see what the Lord has to say about it. And I opened the book. And our eyes fell upon the words, a camel can pass through the eye of a needle more readily than a wealthy man can enter heaven with all of his wealth. And Bernardo was one of the first to join the order and to follow me. And whether or not you become a Franciscan, know this to be true. When you are in your darkest moment, when shadow and doubt envelops you, turn to someone and do one kind thing. I love you. And that act of kindness will reverberate through the world. Leprosy, AIDS, COVID, pandemics have racked the human race since the dawn of time. Some flee, some blame, some bless, some are blessed in service to the least among us. When I was recovering from my illness, and the good sister would read to me, again, I sought to understand every word, and I wrestled one day with the 3 most difficult words in the Bible. You might disagree, but for me, the 3 most difficult words were, love thy enemy. Love thy enemy. Is it even possible? Christ said, turn the other cheek. Who has done you wrong? Who has spat upon you? Broken your heart? Can you forgive them? Can you love them? Can you walk away in a way that makes you feel safe, but you do not carry the burden? Leprosy was the thing I feared the most. Sometimes in the cool of the evening, I would walk through Assisi. Have you been? The streets are such, you can touch from one house to the next. I smelled it before I saw it. In the dark of the evening, leprosy, your flesh is rotting and dripping from the bone. My first thought was to run. But home was that way. I thought I could step over and around, but as I did, those 3 words, love thy enemy. Could I? I leaned over and I slipped my arm under the arm and I lifted the leper to his feet. I went to slip my other arm under his other arm, and I decided in that moment to take him home, to bathe his wounds, to let him feel the fine fabric from my father's shop. But as I lifted him to his feet, he disappeared. And in my arms, I held not a leper, but our Lord Jesus Christ, who reached down and kissed me on the forehead, and he was gone. And I was alone. I was alone on the streets of Assisi on a cool, dark night. But I can tell you, I was never again alone. Brother, son, and sister, open mine eyes to visions pure and fair. I love you all, though I have just met you. I love you as I love that cardinal that is chirping in the tree above us, as I love the tree. I love you as I love this stone, and I love you with more love than that. But in this world, my truest love is the young lady sitting behind you, Lady Claire. When I was a child, we were the best of friends. I hope you find a love that is your best friend. And when we were young, it was thought for sure that we would be betrothed. And when I gave my life to God, I wonder if I broke her heart. But she gave her life to God. And though the friars minor were little brothers, she founded the order of the Sisters of Clare. I shorn her hair and baptized her. Now the Sisters of Clare, they were a cloistered order. They lived in their cloister and they prayed for the world. And I'm here today as a blessing, but on the day I left this world, the world came together to build a grand cathedral. Again, have you been to Assisi?
No.
Have you been to Notre Dame?
No.
Have you seen the great cathedrals of Grand Rapids in Detroit?
Yes.
Not nearly so grand, but grand they are. They would often take 50 to 100 years to build. In less than 3 years, a cathedral rose in Assisi. The world brought stones. And Pope Gregory, when he was a younger man, was a family friend. Pope Gregory came to bless the cathedral. But the ladies, Clare, they were cloistered. Lady, as the Mother Superior said to the nuns, you must go. And they said, Clare, you must go. She said, I can't, I am sick. She said, we will carry you. She said, I will not be a burden. You must go. And she was the Mother Superior. They went, and she sat in her small cell, whitewashed walls, as the service was held miles away. And when the nuns came back, they said, Clare, you missed the most beautiful service. The choir boys in the rafters, it was the angels themselves. And Pope Gregory, his blessing, the stories told by the friars minor, you missed it. And she said, no, I did not. For there on the whitewashed wall of her cell, she saw the entire service. She told them which hymns were sung in the order and who sang solos. She had a vision, and she was able to share her vision. Because she could tell her vision, she is the patron saint of television. Can't make this up. You cannot make this up. End was near, and I wanted to make sure the little brothers who'd given up their life to follow not me, but the Lord. Do you look at the finger? Or if the finger's pointing at the moon, do you look at the moon? I am just a finger pointing. I prayed for the ladies, Clare. I prayed for all the brothers and sisters who've given their life to the Lord. I prayed for my home, Assisi. I prayed for all of those who live in the Umbrian Valley. I prayed for every bird and every fish. I prayed for the salvation of the world. I prayed for your salvation, those who shall not be born 1,000 years from now. I prayed most fervently. For 40 days and 40 nights I fasted. And the brothers, they camped down the hill and they would come and check on me. They would bring water. Please, do you mind? I've been talking for an hour. Thank you. You are blessed.
You're welcome.
That is the greatest blessing, to make sure your friends have a drink of water. Thank you. The water of life. Every day the brothers would come and they would bring me water and they would check on me. And one night near the end of the 40 days of fasting, I sat in the cool of the evening and I saw them, the seraphim, flaming angels, carrying the cross of our Lord. And like fireworks, the sky lit up, and the flaming arrows pierced my hands and my feet, and a spear to my side. And I bled, and I felt the pain that our Lord felt for me and for you. And with that pain, I felt the joy. I felt the blessing. I felt the love. I felt the love for all of humankind, for all of creation. I felt that love. And it still lives in me and in you. Again, a deep breath. You are loved. In your darkest moment, know you are loved. Simply lifting a stone, offering a drink of water to a friend, a blessing shared, and the love is shared. The brothers, they saw the flames in the sky. They came up and they carried me. I insisted that they take me back where it all began. And they lay me in the grass outside of San Damiano. When I went to visit the Sultan in the Middle East, another story we don't have time for. When I saw Muslims killing Christians and Christians killing Muslims, I brought love. And I met with the Sultan. But my eyes, I got an infection. And so they cauterized my eyes with hot iron. And the pain was unbearable. But I heard a cricket sing. And just that little cricket brought me great joy. And I turned and I said, Sister Cricket, please, will you sing for me? And as long as she sang, I felt the love, the joy, and the pain was gone. She sang for 3 nights and 3 days. And then I came to my senses and I said, Sister, you must have a family, someplace you must be. Thank you, but cease your singing. And I left this world, my corporal self, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, but the love lives always. Brother, son, and sister, air, open mine eyes to visions fair and pure, that that I may see the beauty around me. I am God's creature, of him I am a part. I feel thy love awakening my heart. If you enjoy these stories, read The Little Flowers of St. Francis, or Murray Bodo's The Journey and the Dream. Learn a Francis story, just one, whichever one struck you or sung to you. And if it's not a sculpture yet, I know somebody who might be able to help you. And you can share these stories. Thank you to Mick and his supporters for this gorgeous garden. Thank you, Brother Sun and Sister Moon. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Well, stepping out of character, my real name is Brian Fox Ellis. I love saying this. For 45 years, I've been touring the world as a storyteller. I've performed in 26 countries in all 50 states. I have about 30 historical characters who live in my head. To be an Irish Shanachie, and yes, I'm Irish, you had to learn 200 stories by heart. I stopped counting at 430 years ago. But to answer your question, I go to Springfield, Illinois, where I play 5 Friends of Lincoln in the next 2 days. I live in Peoria, Illinois now. I grew up in Toledo and spent a lot of time in Michigan in my youth, and
You're a
still love
Michigan
them.
fan.
Yes, yes. And actually, end of program. I have a long drive, but just a quick question or two about the stories, about the program. Any questions? Not often you get to talk to St. Francis.
Yeah, right.
Well, that is Mick Carlson.
I know. I just met him today, my new best friend.
Yeah. Mick Carlson.
Yes.
You are Mick Carlson.
Yes, he is a sculptor who created all this bronze. You also helped to lay out and design the garden?
Yeah.
And you had help with that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of help with this, and a lot of talented people have helped, and so yeah, it's been quite a journey. 15 years, and we've raised over $1 million from just to do what we have here, and a
6
little bit
acres.
at a time over 15 years, and then
What a sanctuary.
It adds up.
Brother sun and sister moon, I seldom see you, seldom hear your tune, preoccupied with selfish misery.